It's a 60 Go podcast presented by Mint Sports. Joining me is Damien Seabold. Seabs, how are you?
I'm good, Tom.
Now, our first club review comes out on Monday, so that's for the Broncos. Broncos are first up with Kobe Hetherington, and then the Sharks will be the week after. So our club reviews start this week. But today we're just going to do a wrap of the international series. Australia looks really impressive. It's almost unfair having Payne, Haas and Tino in the front row.
Oh no, they really set a strong platform, didn't they? The go forward was tough to handle. I mean, you know, Samoa's forward pack were one of their strengths, and they couldn't hold them.
Yeah, absolutely. And PNG, I love watching PNG play, man. Like, they are just so fun to watch. And really, the Cook Islands, they don't have the talent there to pick from that the other Islander nations do. But PNG did what they did, and they did it really well.
Yeah, they did. PNG's big thing that I noticed was they've got some really classy players in key positions now. So Lachlan Lamb is becoming a better footballer as each year goes on, and you know, he started in the Super League this year with Lee, the Leopards.
Yes,
and obviously there's a lot of talk now about trying to get him back to an NRL club, and he'd be a legitimate starter at many NRL clubs now. So he's a good footballer. Alex Johnson at the back meant that they had a classy fullback as well to try and capitalise on opportunities. But the thing that PNG have got, and they've always had it, is that power game through the middle.
And a lot of their forwards either have NRL experience, like bringing in Jack de Belin. Like, what a big addition that is.
Well, he's a key piece because he enabled them to have a little bit. It wasn't just smash it up, get an offload. He actually brought a little bit of ball playing through the middle as well into their game. And
then you bring in people like Dan Russell. Dan Russell played a lot of international football. He's actually probably played more games for PNG than NRL games.
He would have, yeah.
But now the fact that he's got 10, 15 NRL games under his belt, it can only help these guys coming through.
Yeah, the Laybutt brothers as well. So both of those guys have got NRL experience. And Nene McDonald.
Yep.
You know, he's a solid NRL player. And then the guys that don't play NRL are standout players for their respective Queensland Cup sides.
Yep, so you got people like Nick Support, plays for the Capras here. He's off to the Super League,
though. He is, yeah.
Yep, so they've got a lot of talent there, PNG. So the fact that they won well is not a big surprise.
They did put the Q in the rack a little bit, so that's one area that I think if they had to find somewhere to improve, that might be it. Because they had the foot on the throat and could have put 60 or 70 on them at home. The crowd was insane. Yep. So, yeah, that's one little area.
The main game this weekend, though, is not in the Pacific Championships. It's Tonga taking on England. This is a cracker. And if you look at the Tongan team just on paper, there's no reason why they can't win this game.
Well, just quickly, you know, they've got Will Hopewadi named at fullback and Kula on the wing. It wouldn't shock me one bit if they swapped and Kula plays fullback and Hopewadi on the wing.
Yep.
But you look at their centres, they've got Moses Suli and Will Penaseni. They're excellent footballers. They've got halves, you know, so that's always been the knock on teams like Tonga and Samoa. They've got great outside backs. They've got forward packs that can match anyone in international footy. It's just, do they have the halves to steer the ship? Well, they've got Tui Lolohea, who's a proven Super League player and Test footballer, and they've also got Katoa named in the halves, and he's only going to be better for the year in the NRL as well.
Absolutely. And if you look 10 years down the track, he is really a key for them over the next decade, isn't he? Like, if he evolves to being one of the premium playmakers in the NRL, then that only benefits Tonga.
Exactly. And I'm not going to name every player here, but what about this for a forward pack? Fanua Blake and Mo Fodawaker up front. They've got Tyson Frizzell and Kaloa Matangi in the back row. Felice Kafusi at lock. So that means guys like Tavita Totola and Olakawatu are on the bench. You know, so that's a strong pack.
Oh, no doubt. And the fact Alessi Katoa is 18th man in that squad.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Connie Hurrell doesn't get a start.
Yeah, so Alessi Katoa, he's a starting back rower for a premium club in the NRL.
I agree. And they're going to really give England a fright in these games because England have named a very strong side themselves. They've got Tommy Burgess, they've got Tommy Markinson, Elliot Whitehead, Jack Wellesby, who is a star. You know, he is very, very good. Now, Dom Young was named to play, but I have heard overnight that he ended up in hospital with some sort of infection. So that
Yep.
was reported on Fox. So he may be out.
Radley, the
Yep.
inflictor.
Big Victor.
Daryl Clark at dummy half, very clever. And also, you mentioned him there, Jack Wellsby. What I would do to see Jack Wellsby in the NRL, like if you're a club at the moment and you don't have a fullback, and you aren't going after Suafa'alongo playing for the Storm, or you aren't going after Jack Wellsby, then you need to go and have a look in the mirror.
Well, I agree, and I'm just looking through the squad here. Sorry, I was distracted because I can't find Herbie Farnworth. So I'm assuming Herbie's out with injury because otherwise he'd be first centre
Certainly.
picked.
Yeah, probably. But Jack Wellsby, if he was to come to the NRL, who do you liken him to? Like he reminds me of sort of a. I know this is going to sound strange, and I'm not saying he's as good as them, but his style of play is sort of a combination of Tom and Teddy. So he's not afraid to have a carry out of the backfield like Tom is.
Well, I was actually going to say Edwards and Teddy.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Yeah,
That's probably fair. So he's not afraid to carry the ball out of the backfield, but he's got that Tedesco ability where he just sticks his head through the line every single time.
he seems to bounce out of that first contact, doesn't he?
Yeah, and we saw it in the World Club Challenge. He was a star when they beat Penrith, and I'd love to see him come out to the NRL. We saw Sam Tompkins years ago, right? He was coming through the grades in England. He was a star. Warriors bought him on colossal money, right? Jack Wellsby and Sam Tompkins are two totally different players.
They are completely different.
Totally different. And Wellsby's size tells me that he's going to be really good in the NRL.
Yeah, he's a lot like. The more I think about it, he is a lot like Dylan Edwards. They're deceptively big men, really strong through the chest, and I think that's why they seem to. Teddy is as well, but Teddy's got that massive motor in the back that helps him get through as well. But they seem to be able to just break tackles, poke their nose through, create opportunities. Pierce Paul, he's not in this squad either. So again, whether or not he made him, well, I assume he would have been selected. He's a star. So whether or not he's made himself unavailable because he's heading over this way and wants to set up.
There could be another fact, though, and I agree, but the fact that he just played in the grand final. So whether those players are available or not, I'm not sure. But you would like to think that he would be around that team somewhere.
Oh, he would have to be. He's got something special about him.
Yeah.
I really think he's going to improve out of sight over here, and he's someone that in the next 5-10 years could, tear international footy apart.
So he plays back row at the moment in the Super League, but he's coming over to the Knights. Do you see him playing back row here?
He can play. He could play in the centres at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
But I think he back rows his position. I've heard a few people throw the Sonny Bill Williams comparison out. I don't see that at all. They're different players.
Yeah.
Completely different.
It's a strange one because he's a bit of a. Sometimes you get players that can play multiple positions that are so out of whack it's not funny. Like he could play back row. He could also play on the wing.
Yeah, he could. I think.
Bit like, who reminds me of? A faster, more athletic version of Corey Oates.
Yeah, true. A more skillful version as well because he's got really good hands and a subtle touch, but he's got a massive big right foot step.
Yep.
So just put him out at right centre, right second row, and let him go.
Yeah. It's probably going to be hard to play him at centre at the Knights with Gagai and Bradman Best.
Yeah, but they're also probably looking. And I don't think he's a centre. I think he's a
back rower.
Yeah, I think he's a back rower. But they're probably looking ahead. Look, Gagai, at the end of the day, he might have a year or two left max. Tyson Frizzell, did he end up re-signing?
I think he's there definitely
one
for
more
next
year.
year.
Again, what better bloke to learn from than Tyson Frizzell for a year, and he's a ready-made right back rower. Look, again, I've just spotted that right footstep because it was something over the semi-final series in Super League that was thrown on highlight packages non-stop. So he could easily be a left back rower or centre as well.
The name that I brought up before, Suafa'alongo, he was outstanding last week. I want to pitch this to you. I heard this idea during the week, and I thought it was a really great idea because the Storm obviously are looking at this going, we would love to keep him, but how do we go about doing that? So Pappenhausen, if fit, is the Storm fullback, right? Yep. But there's a lot of questions about Pappenhausen at the moment. I think that's fair to say. Just through health-wise, he's had multiple injuries in a row now. If the Storm were to do what they did with Harry Grant and loan him out and say, if anyone wants to give us a front rower back,
I don't see it happening, because the difference is Cameron Smith was 52 years old when they did that, and he was only 1 or 2 more years off retiring. If Pappenhausen stays fit, he's not going anywhere for 5-6 years. So I don't know if they'll loan him out. My opinion is it is a toss of the coin either way. There is no safe decision whether you go the young guy or Pappenhausen, because Pappenhausen's got to get through a year uninjured. You know, you don't know when it's going to fall over for him. If he stays fit, as you said, he is their best option at fullback, and he's a star. The young bloke had a great game in his debut against the Broncos, but let's not forget he was playing against Q Cup players that he plays against every week anyway. He was a star last week. That was the one. That game meant more to me than the debut game against the Broncos, because he was playing against quality.
Yeah. So if you're the Storm, how do you get him?
But it's a risk because he's unproven. They don't know.
I get that, but the talent is clearly there.
It is.
The one thing that is a wonder is you think, how does this guy not score 4 tries every week in Q Cup?
Again, I've watched him play Q Cup, and he doesn't look that good when he plays Q Cup. So it's a scenario where some people actually get better depending on the level that they're playing in, and with better players around them, it really brings them to a new level as well. So he could be one of those guys that more opportunities get created for him because there's more class around him.
Is there a way to get him in the game if you're the Storm then, if Pappenhausen's fit?
Well, he's probably not that big winger that they like.
No.
And they've already got 2 really good wingers. The other option would be, unless Coates moves into the centres, which I think long-term Coates is a centre.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I think that'll end up being his best position in a couple of years' time, because we can't forget that he's a kid himself still. He's only early 20s, so he's got a bit of growth there. I don't know, though, if the young guy is good enough, is big enough to play on the wing the way that Melbourne like to play.
And that's why I don't think you'll see any change to the wingers, because if you move Coates, then Fa'alongo's not the guy, so who else is?
Unless they bring him through the middle for 10 minutes each half.
That might be it. And I think Nick Meaney will play centre. I think he's going to have a full off-season dedicated to playing centre.
Well, there you go. Sorry, I forgot about Nick Meaney. If Coates does move into the centres at some stage, which he may not. Either way, Meaney's going to be on that wing anyway. Not the young fella.
Yeah. So the Storm actually have a problem with their outside backs, because I can't see all of these outside backs being on the roster at the start of next year.
Well, it's pretty obvious that they're trying to move Justin Olam.
Yeah. And Remus Smith is the forgotten man as well. It seems as though the Storm have had Remus Smith and Justin Olam as just locks in the team, just unquestioned centres.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden...
I think Remus Smith, though, injury got him at the wrong time.
Maybe, but the fact that they really weren't... If Xavier Coates was healthy in that last game, Remus Smith wouldn't have played.
No, you're right. Going back to the Tonga v England game,
yep.
Based on those 2 teams, we see the Tonga scored 1-17. Based on where we think the English guys will play, who do you think wins?
I think for this one game, I'll tip Tonga. I think that those outs of Farnworth and Young are massive.
They are. They're big outs.
Massive. So I think Tonga have enough to win this. It's gonna be an epic game.
Who wins the series then? Tonga, you got game 1. Who have you got for the series?
Yeah, I'll probably lean Tonga to win the series. I think that their forwards are just colossal, and this forward pack for Tonga is not just a good forward pack for Tonga. This is a good forward pack for any team in the world.
It is.
Like that, if that was the Australian team, you'd be going, hey, this is a great forward pack.
If they had something, potentially shuffle a couple of things around, and I would bring Olakau'atu on and play him on the right edge. I'd move Keon back to lock. If they then had a legitimate high-level hooker, I would say it's the best pack in international footy.
It would be very close. And you just have to look at it. So, Mo Fotuaika played Origin. Tyson Frizzell played Origin. So, all these guys, like, they're not only just good enough to make the Tongan team, they're good enough to make the best rep teams.
Adam Fanua-Blake is constantly in the conversation of who is the best prop.
Yep, absolutely. And that is a key part, though. Like, Saliva Havili always gets me. He's very much a stopgap, isn't he? Like,
he is. Yeah.
Like he's the utility.
Yeah, he's played 15, 20 minutes of hooker each game. Type of player.
So it'll be interesting. Which way are you leaning?
I think Tonga win this first game, but I think England win the series.
Yep. And you know what? If they win this series, England and they might. Jack Wellesby's the guy that we'll all be talking about at the end.
Yeah, I agree.
I
am looking forward to watching this game, though. In saying that, I'm looking forward to watching the other game, which we haven't got to yet, the New Zealand-Samoa game, which is on later today, actually. And New Zealand should comfortably look after Samoa. But I just don't think it's going to be as comfortable as what it looks like it will be on paper, because I can imagine Samoa are going to lift. They're going to have an enormous supporter base over in New Zealand when the game's on this afternoon. So, it wouldn't surprise me if the crowd was maybe a 60-40 split. So they're going to have plenty of support. And both sides are really good on paper.
And you're so right. And I was just looking at the teams before, and
probably the halves is the big thing that stands out as to where the strength is for New Zealand.
Yeah, no doubt. And there's a lot of teammates going up against each other in this one. So a lot of Penrith influence right throughout the squad. So is Sean Johnson retired from rep football?
No, he ruled himself out with that injury.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So and you're right. That is where New Zealand have got him in spades, really, in the halves. So Hughes and Brown in the halves. That's probably the best halves combination.
I look at those sides and think the back five cancel each other out.
They're both very good. Very good.
I don't think there's a... You might say that New Zealand have got the upper hand at fullback, but on the wings, I'd say that Samoa have got the upper hand. The centres almost completely really cancel each other out. So it's it's going to be interesting. But Dylan Brown and Jerome Hughes up against Stephen Crichton and Dejan Arce, there's a big difference there.
It would have been better to see Luai in the halves, and that way you can put Seve out and put Crichton into the centres.
Exactly right. And then all of a sudden, I'd say Samoa have got a better backline.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's a really good forward pack for Samoa. I'm not taking anything away from them, but this forward pack for the Kiwis is just another level.
Yeah, it's going to be big, isn't it?
Yeah, so Papali'i, Nakora in the back row with Tarpany at lock, Leota and Harris. We know how good they are in the front row. And then on the bench, Kieran Foran. I love that Kieran Foran's playing.
So do I. He's a good footballer still. Even, the injuries that he's had, he's getting on in age. He still deserves to be there.
Nelson Asif Solomona, we know how good he is. Griffin Neem, very serviceable from the Cowboys. Leo Thompson, he's really come on this year for Newcastle.
He has, yeah.
So I'd be really stunned if the Kiwis lost this, to be honest.
So would I. And on paper, I think New Zealand should win by 20. Even more. They could really put a score on them. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Samoa will make it difficult for them.
Yeah, the Suafa'alongo playing for Samoa, he's just such a wild card at the moment. Like that no try that he scored the other day against Australia, he's got so much talent.
He does, and he sliced Australia open a couple of times where he just found an opportunity. There was a bit of space, and he exploded into it. Stefano Uekamanu and Junior Paulo up front, they are good enough. I'm not saying that they're going to be better than the starting props for New Zealand, because they're unbelievable. But they are good enough to hold their own. The back row is good enough to hold its own. The bench is good enough to hold its own. So you look at that bench, and we've probably glazed over it pretty quickly. They've got Spencer Leniu, Torrell May, and Hillam Lukey on the bench.
Yeah.
They're good NRL players.
Yeah.
Very, very good NRL players.
Yeah, it's such a punch, isn't it? James Fisher-Harris, Moses Leota, Nelson Asofa-Solomona.
That's right. It's just going to be how much have those Penrith boys enjoyed themselves over the last couple of weeks. That'll be the key. But again, this game being in the second week of the Pacific Cup, or the series that they're playing, has probably given them a chance to blow those grand final celebration cobwebs out. And
it's a great point that you make. Samoa have already had a game together.
That's it.
And New Zealand, this is their first game. So it'll be interesting to see. Should be a great game. And don't forget to look out for our club reviews starting on Monday. So the first one is the Broncos with Kobe Hetherington. Sharks next week with Josh Hannay. Siebes, good to see you.
Thanks, mate.
This has been the 60 Podcast, brought to you